France is always in your upper right corner, so make sure you're writing your notes in the correct country. France is upper right on all of your pages, at least it should be. I've got my notebook open like this, which I highly recommend. It makes it easier to flip back and forth between pages.
Okay, so we're France, and I'm representing the Gore side, and I believe that France had a big role in the Gore factor in exploration because a lot of those sugar plantations in the Caribbean were French colony islands. And so I know some of you might get into the slavery thing with you bring in slaves. I know France didn't bring a lot of slaves, but they're being brought to the French sugar colony. So if we didn't have the sugar colony set up, you know, the demand for that sugar, and we're meeting that demand, then that slavery factor, I think, is just key in terms of gore. That's probably one of the most goriest things I can think of in history.
Since you stated about the slaves, since you stated the slaves were not, we didn't use too many of them, I feel that would kind of.
No, I'm saying we didn't transport a whole lot.
Right, and we didn't.
But we used them.
Okay.
This is off topic from the slaves, but it mainly focuses at the Indians. Instead of killing Indians to convert them to Christianity, if they disagreed, we would kill them. Instead, we more integrated ourselves into the Indian culture and tried to convert them that way. So we took a different approach from other countries at this time.
Adding to about the Indians, like when the French came, like good made a good relationship with Indians. The Indians would like get furs and they'd just be trappers for them. So then the French could trade it to another country and they would make money off of that.
Right, back to what Calvin said, I agree with what you said about how you're peaceful in your attempt at like converting Indians to Christianity, but you weren't very successful in converting the Indians. So.
But without our, and I see where you're coming from, but without our step of trying to be like nice or giving them a secure area where they can come over to us. We didn't have we had a great approach. It's just we couldn't do as much because specific areas had more of an advantage, so we couldn't work as well.
I would disagree with you because you didn't allow Protestants until the 1700s. So if you're trying to have a welcoming approach when it comes to religion and to God, I would say that would counter-argument. It would say counter-argument against what you're trying to say. So I wouldn't say that. It would be the legacy because you didn't allow certain types of religion.
Back to what Chase said, our relationship with the Indians did make them allies in the French and Indian War. So we had more Indian allies than other countries did.
And going on with what Raven said, we didn't allow Protestants, we didn't allow Protestants, and that is somewhat the whole point of missionaries, is to convert over to our side. Yes, we had an open mind of whether you would like to, it was free, but we would also, if you were going to become, be going to our churches or such and such, that you would be on our side and not, no one else.
I would disagree though that you claim to have had an open mind because you didn't allow them until the 1700s. right when the exploration era was ending. So,
Well, if you look at modern day Canada, which was taken from us by the English, but a lot of French Catholics remain there under English protection. I believe 39% of Canada is still Catholic today.
that's only 39% though. Out of 100%, there's 70% that doesn't have that effect. So in the general aspect, it didn't have that much of an impact.
Okay. Back to what Calvin said about how 39% of Canada is still Catholic today. I think that's part of an argument that Glory would be France's best legacy because of the influence that they've been able to keep on their colonies that they've originally established.
Or do you have anything to add?
Well, I'd like to go back to something that Chase said, because like, or even the thing you said now, what kind of statistics or specific facts do you have to back that up? I know you turn their kind of fact against them, but how is that more glory than God?
Because of, like, the other influences they left, like, there's a large part of Canada that still speaks French today versus, English. And then our ties that we had with Africa, like throughout Africa, is still spoken in, like, many countries in Africa, and Louisiana, because we have Louisiana territory. There are still a lot of people in Louisiana who have, like, descended from the Acadians that speak French there.
And see, I would argue that a lot of the influence is on those slaves that were brought over from Africa. So if it weren't for our desire as French people to dominate the sugar trade, then if it weren't for that, we wouldn't have even sought to bring those slaves over. And we had, there's 11 million total slaves that came from Africa to the New World, of which we had a portion, not the full portion, but a large portion, and included with those countries, like you said, in Africa. So I think, to me, it just circles back to the issue of slavery, and that's, to me, fits best under the category of war.
Leading away from the topic of glory, you could say that almost God and glory go hand in hand because the religious aspect does fall into the category of the famousness of it, and it left its roots there. So you can almost come to a middle ground between God and glory and say that they're right beside each other.
Back to what Ireland said before she said that, which I do agree with. Raven, sorry, mixed up. Back to what Raven said before that, which I do agree with her last statement. The other percentage of Canadians that are not Roman Catholic can be a multiple of other religions, including Protestant, Muslim, Jewish, etc. So 39% of the entire nation is one religion.
I would agree. I would just go back to what Raven said and say that was, like, I agree with what you said, and it was a good point, and I think that it can help us reach consensus between the glory and God.
I think, yeah, Chase is onto something. So, but Raven, can you clarify? Are you saying if God and glory can be kind of merged? Are you saying then that together that overpowers our sense of gold and gore? Or are you saying that weakens the consensus we should reach on one or the other of those?
I'm saying it could go against gold and gore itself.
Go against both of them?
Yes.
Okay.
So you can kind of team up God and glory, but then you could also kind of team up gold and gore because with the slave,
Okay.
with the slave
Yeah.
trade, there was a lot of trading within that, and there was expensive.
Because the gold you're saying would mean not just gold, but in our case, sugar.
Yes.
Right, okay, so, then what would you suggest we do?
Well, I
If you
suggest.
team up both?
that God and Glory join up and try and reach to why their points would be the legacy, and then Golden Core should try and convince why our legacy, why it would be our legacy.
Okay, so one or the other, and then have those two
Debate, yes.
debate. Okay. So let's start with Gore and Gold then. Which came first? The desire to set up sugar plantations came first, that'd be like the gold part, and then we need the need to get slaves to the New World because the Native Americans died part? So are you saying the gold comes first before the Gore, or is it that we know, because we enslaved the natives first, and then when they died out, we brought Africans? Like, which do you suggest then, between your side and my side?
I would suggest that gold came first because while the natives did die out eventually, that wasn't necessarily all our fault, and we weren't specifically trying to kill them off the way the English did. And for gold, I mean, we also came to America for that purpose of farming and trapping and trading with the fur. And gore came afterwards eventually, and it actually only became prominent during the 1700s when Britain and France clashed.
Okay, when we clashed with Britain, North America, which I can agree to that, because in our war with Britain and the French and Indian War, which would be the French and Indians against the British and the Indians, we did, through that, the Treaty of Paris, get those French, we did get the islands of the Caribbean that I'm talking about, so I'm saying I could lean towards that assessment, that the desire for making wealth came before our pursuit of enslaving Africans and bringing them to America. Yeah.
Kind of add to like about the slave argument. When we brought over slaves, like near the Caribbean, say the French were like making money through trading and like using them to like just to make money in general, to make profit.
Okay, so you're saying you're agreeing with that?
Yeah.
So, Nicholas, how about you? Would you, Raven and Cole, now laid out this plan, or this, would you agree with what they're saying?
Yeah, I think I would agree with what they're saying. I believe that France is making money throughout like slavery and such like that. I believe that they're making a lot of money throughout that.
Okay, so you're saying the desire to make money came before the need to inflict pain and suffering on people.
Yeah, I think
Okay. So have we come to a consensus then that gold is a deeper legacy than gore for France? Okay, so then can we hear from because Raven suggested it, right? So then, can you guys discuss a little bit?
Do you guys want to start?
Well, our relationship with the Indians did allow them to become allies with us in the French and Indian War against the English. So that would lean more toward God, I believe, because if it hadn't been for the missionaries integrating themselves into the Indian culture, it wouldn't have allowed ourselves to become allies with the Indians.
I agree with what you said, Calvin. And but my next point kind of goes against both of our arguments, for both God and Glory, that even though the Indians were our allies in the French and Indian War, we ended up losing the French and Indian War. And
ACHS!
They're taking a test.
Yeah. Sorry. So we ended up losing Canada and all of our land east of the Mississippi and Louisiana territory. But I think going back to Raven's gold argument.
He will never rest. Silvercat shall lead the way. We are ACHS.
So if you guys can help facilitate when they, within the county consensus, because then the next thing we'll do is figure out if it's gold or these. Does that make sense? Right, okay, and I think you're hitting that point. So, can we go again and take, so Chase, talk more, are you saying you're leaning towards, because Chase, you're right now glory, so you're leaning towards gold a little bit?
I think so.
Okay, and why?
Because, well, like I said, I feel like the gold or glory was a strong legacy, but in the because of our claims on the land and how much we had all of Canada and most of the central U.S. plus Louisiana. But since we lost it, I feel like that would be kind of a strong argument against glory. Except afterwards, we did regain our slave trade outposts and our sugar producing islands in the Caribbean, which I think ultimately relates back to gold. And so we were able to maintain our aspects of gold even after we kind of lost our glory.
Okay, so what, Wesley, what are we down to? Like, if you guys are, if I'm saying I think I can lean towards the gold consensus and now Chase as well, what are we leaning towards? What do you think?
That gold is more, comes before any of the other Gs because, decided to, set up plantations.
Okay, so gold in God, what do we got, guys?
God, and so far for everybody, so far our consensus, that C word. We are going with gold because, realistically, we all had a great part in forming gold, and gold was even before Gore, and glory and God, well.
So you're God, so you're.
Yeah,
you're
we're God, and we're
okay.
going with, gold, because, I mean, we still converted some Indians, and we, lost, I don't know, well,
We lost a lot of territory to the English in the war, and as Raven pointed out, our relationship with the Indians did lead to profitable fur trading. So we agree that gold is the best legacy in this case.
I think all of our legacies played a part in helping gold out. And so I feel like, yeah, we can use consensus.
So everyone agrees with that France's legacy was gold?
France's strongest legacy was gold. And can you three restate the reasons why? Ben?
Because gold was it started before the other 3Gs, and while the other 3Gs did play important parts in our legacy, I would think that it all added on to gold. So while it did have their separations, I think ultimately it all formed together to form this one big legacy which was founded on gold.
I think to kind of add to what Raven said about how it's founded on gold. One of the main reasons for going to America in the first place was just to make a profit and get gold.
And then Nicholas, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, yeah, we pretty much built our whole entire legacy on gold through our trading with other countries and stuff like that. But yeah, I agree with both of them. We built this country off of gold.
So we're agreeing that our motives to make a profit is really the origin of all the other Gs. It leads to all the other.
it's the origin and, most, yeah,
Most last.
the most, last.
I mean, I would argue that without glory and our explorers like Jacques Cartier and Samuel de Champlain who set up Quebec in 1608, like our very first permanent settlement. And then Jacques Cartier who claimed Canada for, France. And without them, like, setting up our land there and probably, like you guys said, being kind to Native Americans, that, like, fur wouldn't have happened, but I would agree that, that, like, our gold was definitely the most lasting legacy, even after we lost everything in the war to England. And
I agree. Yep, I totally agree.
All right, very good. Give these guys a round of applause. And Portugal, you guys can thank them because they gave you enough time to do your forum. So let's go ahead and switch out France for Portugal.
Before we do, take a quick second to write your summary statement.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you should have a summary statement for God, glory,